We are opening up the mailbag, answering your questions about Duncan Robinson, Caleb Martin, and a potential trade with the Indiana Pacers. A great show to wrap up your week here on Locked On Heat.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, Heat Nation. It's a Friday edition of Locked On Heat, your daily podcast covering all things Miami Heat. However you may be listening on YouTube, Odyssey, or your favorite podcast app. Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. I'm David Ramil. With me, as always, is my co-host, Wes Goldberg. Today's episode is brought to you by Truebill. Truebill is the new app that saves you money by helping you identify and stop paying for the subscriptions you don't want or need, and can even negotiate better deals on those you want to keep. It's Friday, Wes. We're so excited here. We're still riding the buzz from that big game against the Milwaukee Bucks, and we're talking about Caleb Martin, superstar, future superstar for the Miami Heat. So much to get into this mailbag. Let's go ahead and lean into it because it's a great episode. Anything you want to say? Any lingering thoughts from that Bucks win that you want to add?
Just that I thought it was really. I don't think we talked about Kyle Lowry and just how many shots he took in that game.
Sure.
The fact that he, and that was the one thing I thought we didn't discuss, because he took 9 shots in 39 minutes against Memphis. Came out and said, "Hey, I'm trying to balance how I should score. Should I shoot more? Should I shoot more? Shoot more?" And then you and I said, "Yeah," we said, "Yeah, shoot more." And then He did. He shot 21 times in 39 minutes against the Bucks, and I think they needed him, especially in that third quarter when he scored 16 of his points.
It was huge. Yeah.
You love to see, and then you've got Eric Spoelstra after that Bucks game saying, it's a balance for Lowry. Like, does he have to be the alpha? He didn't use the word alpha, but does he have to sort of be the number one option, or is he more of that facilitating, playmaking guy, getting guys involved? It's tough. And I think, and Spoelstra hinted at the fact that, with Jimmy and Bam out, more often than not, he's going to have to be that number one guy. And I think that's something to look at going forward.
Well, we should also add that we're less than 24 hours away from a matchup against the Chicago Bulls that's expected to take place on Saturday night. It shouldn't be. Half the Bulls roster entering the league's health and safety protocols at this point in time. No discussion regarding a possible postponement or anything else like that. Do you think there's any chance that they'll postpone this game? Because I really don't think so.
I think the NBA wants to avoid it because they haven't postponed a game all season, I don't believe, and
but things are getting worse.
You've got
Charlotte, you've got Chicago, you've got a bunch of teams that have got guys entering these health and safety protocols, testing positive. You've got the LeBron case, which was very public. I mean, it's getting worse, and people want to pretend that it's not.
Right, you've got Charlotte rolling out like a lineup with Kelly Oubre playing point guard for them the other night, you've got them. I don't know. They didn't postpone that game. Again, the NBA is going to do everything they can not to postpone these games, but you do have the new variant out there. There's a spike right now happening across America. It's not just an NBA thing. And I think the NBA is doing the right thing in testing more post-Thanksgiving and doing all these things and being quick to put these guys into the protocol. I think it's just a matter of time before you postpone a game. Yeah. I don't know if it's the Chicago game. I don't know if Billy Donovan, he used to play ball. Does he just get out there and start playing for him? I don't know, but I think it's
a little unlikely. Yeah, I'd like to see it. Okay, how about that? We should probably save this for a full mailbag on its own. Which current NBA coach would make the best player to just trot him out there and get him out there? I honestly think Spo has a pretty good case. Still keeps him in fantastic shape. It was a collegiate coach. I mean, a collegiate point guard at the University of Portland. I mean, he's got a chance.
Chauncey Billups, Jason Kidd. I mean, the guys who were Hall of Fame level type of players. But Jason Kidd's not keeping it tight right now.
No, he's not.
So I don't know.
There's got to be some options. I mean, I'm sure. What's the name of the New Orleans Pelicans coach? Oh no, the Magic coach. He seems like he's a recently retired player.
The Magic coach. I don't even know who coaches the Magic right now. I honestly, it's not Steve Clifford anymore. I have no idea.
No, it's not.
Jacques Vaughn.
It's not Jacques Vaughn either. Yeah, it's not James Borrego either. They've had a few. It's not Frank Vogel.
Steve Kerr was a shooter, and I've watched Steve Kerr. He can shoot. I mean, it's not very long.
His back is made out of paper tinfoil at this point.
And his knees too. But I don't know. You could just stick him in a corner. I'm sure he could just outshoot guys. But if it's an up and down full court game, then maybe he's got a tougher time. I don't know.
I like Spo's chances. All right, let's actually answer some questions from the mailbag. This first one comes in from Derek, sending this one via email. Should the Miami Heat try to get Myles Turner in a trade? In a recent episode, you and I, Wes, talked about the Indiana Pacers looking to lean into a full rebuild. Myles Turner may or may not be on the market. What do you
Right.
think? Should the Heat go after him in a trade?
Well, that was the initial report is, hey, they're looking at, maybe moving Turner or Sabonis or Karis LeVert. And then The Athletic has this report Thursday afternoon with Myles Turner basically just raising his hand. He's like, yeah, I'll get traded. You want to rebuild? Trade me. I'm all
Trade
for
me.
it. Because he's
Yeah.
basically telling this reporter from The Athletic, I'm a glorified role player here, and I deserve to be used better. I deserve to be a star or treated like a star somewhere else. And Jonathan Tjarks wrote this great piece for The Ringer, I think on Wednesday, the day before this Athletic piece dropped, saying exactly that just sort of this great analysis piece saying Myles Turner is the big man that Indiana should be building around, not Domantas Sabonis. And I tend to agree with him. I think in today's NBA, look, Sabonis is fun to watch. He's got like this kind of old school low post stuff, and that's great. But he's not Nikola Jokic. He's not Joel Embiid out there. He's not very good defensively. He's not stretching the floor for you. And Myles Turner is a guy who can fit basically anywhere. He blocks shots at the rim. He defends the rim really well. He's really athletic, really big, and he's for like the last 3 or 4 years, his 3-point shooting has just gotten better and better and better and better. I think there's a lot of value for him in a lot of different places. Should the Miami Heat look at Myles Turner? I just think from a conceptual standpoint, it's interesting. I think you think about those guys that have come through Miami, whether it be Kelly Olynyk or Myers Leonard, and that's kind of been the other big man that the Heat have tried to pair Bam with in the past, even though Myles Turner is certainly more of just a 5. And yeah, you could move Bam to the 4, and you would have the sort of Twin Towers thing, and would that work? I still think that the best version of this Heat team is the one that got them through the bubble, with Bam playing center and just a big bruising power forward, whether it be Jay Crowder or in this case PJ Tucker, playing that spot, and you're just switching everything, and you're able to just kind of seamlessly, go from zone to man to switching everything and all this stuff. I still think that's the best version of this team, the highest ceiling of this team. So just for that, I'm not jumping all the way in the pool for Myles Turner, just from a conceptual standpoint. And then you consider all the salary and stuff. Like, it would take Duncan Robinson plus a bunch of stuff, and then I don't know. I know that Duncan Robinson's in a shooting slump. I'm the last holdout here on Duncan Robinson Island. I don't know, but I still gotta believe that 3-point shot is going to come around, and I think that is more valuable from that spot in the backcourt than even Myles Turner being able to shoot from that center position. It's just the versatility. You lose something there. For as versatile as Myles Turner is, you put Bam at the 5, and that's like playing small while staying big. And I don't think you can sacrifice that.
I think it's a great idea. Just similarly to you, I think there's a potential there that seems tantalizing. Like, if you can stretch the floor with a Myers Leonard and you're giving up so much defensively, all of a sudden you get both, sides of the equation here with a guy like Turner who can shoot, who has a mid-range game on occasion, and of course is a great rim protector. But you also have to consider that maybe Miami's defense, as you said, is built upon this kind of heavy switching mentality. Turner can't really switch to much. He's not as mobile. He's not as lead-footed as Leonard is, but he's not exactly Bam Adebayo either. And then he would kind of be reduced into the same role that he is right now, which is not something he wants to be. He's not going to be a showcase player here. He's not going to be the featured player. And I think that being the case, he probably wouldn't be happy here. Now, there's also the tension, the reported or alleged tension between Bam Adebayo and Myles Turner regarding his selection of Team USA and things of that sort. I don't know how realistic or how actual that might be, but I think they'll put that behind them if they could work, again, conceptually. But yeah, right. I mean, between the kind of price tag it would require to get a guy like Turner and everything else, I just don't think there's a good chance that Miami enters the Turner sweepstake. I kind of love to see it, to be honest with you. I think you give Spo as many potential pieces or whatever you want to call it, so he can get in the lab, as everybody likes to think, and he'll come up with something. He changed his defense around when you had a guy like Hassan Whiteside who was hogging the ball, not sharing. Turner's not that guy. If he can stretch the floor, you can still run certain actions with Jimmy Butler and Kyle Lowry.
Yeah.
Bam Adebayo would still be a great playmaker there. I would stretch the floor considerably. You'd have like this 5-out system where you could just pick everybody apart and have Jimmy attack the basket. It could be pretty exciting.
I mean, you still kind of have that, though. You're basically the only way this deal could even work from the Heat's perspective is to trade Duncan Robinson. That's the only way you can get to that kind of salary. So you're basically just taking Duncan Robinson out of that starting lineup and you're putting Myles Turner in. Is that lineup better as a spacing lineup. Like, just forget the 3-point percentages. I still think that the defenses respect Duncan Robinson more from 3-point range, especially from like
For sure.
33, 35 feet than Myles Turner,
For sure.
because Myles Turner is a center. And now you're still running that 5-out system. And defensively, yeah, maybe you're a little bit more stout at the rim, but I don't know. Like, now you're kind of putting Bam Adebayo. You're kind of taking him out of what makes him so special defensively.
Yeah.
If you're
Yeah.
putting him on at the 4 and not switching so much. The other part of this too, we should at least, it's worth a mention, is let's take the Pacers side of this. Why on earth would you ever trade Myles Turner for Duncan Robinson? First of all, you can get a lot better of a player than Duncan Robinson in return for Myles Turner. And it's not like the Heat can attach any draft picks to Duncan Robinson. And if you're launching a rebuild, don't you want draft picks? You're not rebuilding around Duncan Robinson. Duncan Robinson has no value to a team that's trying to hit the reset button. Duncan Robinson is a ceiling raiser. He's a guy that can space the floor for your stars. But if you don't have any stars, then what's the point of having a guy like Duncan Robinson?
Wow.
There's just no way that a trade really happens, not just for Myles Turner, but I don't think there's a trade to be made between Miami and Indiana in general.
No, all this TJ Warren slander. I'm not sure how I feel about it, but let's move on to some more questions here in the mailbag. We'll talk about Duncan Robinson, Karis LeVert, and a couple more questions from you, our listeners, coming up next. But first, just a reminder that this episode is brought to you by Truebill. Do you know why free trials read you without your consent? Because it's a business scam out to get you. Don't let greedy corporations pocket your money. Download Truebill to take control of your subscriptions. Truebill is the new app that helps you identify and stop paying for subscriptions you don't need, want, or simply forget about. On average, people save about $720 a year with Truebill because companies make subscriptions hard to cancel. Truebill makes it incredibly simple. You just link your accounts and Truebill will cancel your unwanted subscriptions in one tap. And your Truebill concierge is there when you need them to cancel unwanted subscriptions so you don't have to. Truebill has over 2 million users and it's helped save them over $100 million. You could be next. Don't fall for subscription scams. Start canceling today at Truebill.com/LockedOnNBA. Go right now. That's Truebill.com/LockedOnNBA. It could save you thousands a year at Truebill.com/LockedOnNBA. Thank you so much for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts. We always want to hear back from you. We've got a survey where we're trying to get together as much as your feedback as possible. So make sure you check that out as well. But of course, as always, make sure you subscribe to get the best Heat content available. Let's keep the mailbag open, Wes. We got a couple more questions here, including one about Caleb Martin that we'll get to later on. But first, this question here comes in from Andres. He writes in, what does Miami need to do to stay afloat until Bam returns from injury? Wow, that's a huge question there. What do you think?
I think what they did against Milwaukee is exactly what they need to be doing. What makes guys like Bam and Jimmy Butler, by the way, too, who we don't know when he's coming back from this tailbone contusion. It's been a nagging injury, and like we've talked about before, it's something that can linger and not just keep him out, but limit him even if he is on the court. I think what Spoelstra did against Milwaukee in running more set plays, calling more plays from the sideline, I think you have to do that. Because what makes guys like Bam and Jimmy Butler and Kyle Lowry and PJ Tucker so special is the fact that they can improvise on the court.
Hold on 1 second, because now as you're answering this, I kind of realize that we've got another question that kind of ties in here somewhat indirectly, but it's here. This one comes in from @KellyO'Burner on Twitter. Could you guys talk a little bit about what seems sustainable from the Bucks game? I like Spo's rotation adjustments, starting Caleb without Jimmy, playing KZ as a backup, etc. The fact that we emphasize putting up more threes and the gang rebounding effort without Bam and Jimmy. Do these elements of last night's victory seem like they can be carried over into future games? Are there others that you all think can be? Or to channel my inner David Ramil's devil advocate, what was the Bucks game just a one-time fluky thing? Well, I didn't realize I had developed that aspect to myself here.
No, I think
apparently I've got lots of shticks going this season, and I'll be honest with you, I don't think I have any. But anyway, that's
you just want all the players. You're like, hey, you worked really hard. You know,
give them rest,
good salary, but give them a rest.
DNP old baby, that's the way to go.
I think that I don't know if the Milwaukee Bucks game was a fluke, but I'll tell you what I liked from it was the fact that Spo was calling set plays for the guys that he did have available. I think that was important. That got guys the confidence, guys like Max Strus and Caleb Martin. Like, those aren't improvisational type of players. They're role players. You need to call plays for them if your other star players aren't available, which they weren't. The other part is it was just a rededication to boxing out. It was less zone. It was more of that man-to-man stuff. There was
Did they
There
even go
was more
zone last night? I
energy.
can't recall. I can't recall any kind of possessions where they actually went zone. Do you?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I don't
Right.
know. I didn't watch the game twice, so I don't know if they did.
Right.
But
Right.
I can't recall them
Yeah, I
using
don't
any
think they
zone,
actually went zone
which
yet.
is kind of weird because that's the team that they
They've
sort
been
of broke
leaning
the
into
zone
it.
out
Yeah.
on. Yeah,
Yeah. For sure.
but they didn't need it because they were playing with so much energy, and that's what I mean. How many times have you and I talked about it? They weren't playing with energy for about a week and a half, 2 weeks, and they
Right.
came out yesterday. I think they need to do that. They need to continue to look at film. They need to continue to practice. They are practicing today, which I think is a really good sign. Just doing more of what like Eric Spoelstra always says, we got to 10x what's working. Just keep doing that. I thought they trimmed the fat on the stuff that wasn't working. They doubled down on the stuff that was. I don't know if they're going to just run the table doing that, but they're definitely going to play better than they were against Indiana, that first game in Milwaukee, and against Memphis. I think that was a step in the right direction.
I liked, something that Kelly O'Burner brings up, and I think we kind of hinted at it in yesterday's recap. Spo being as flexible as he was with his rotations was something that I wasn't expecting. We've seen from Spo over the years that sometimes he can be a little bit too regimented when he brings guys off the bench. This is who I bring in at just this time in the second and third quarter, etc. And he doesn't deviate from that. A couple of years ago in the bubble, he completely changed the script a little bit. Benched Myers Leonard, started Jay Crowder. Of course, they went on a deep finals run. We've seen that from him sporadically. Yesterday was him saying, you know what? This lineup works against the Bucks. And when it didn't, when you started Dedmon in the first and third quarter and you realize that he's getting roasted out there, you go small, you bring in KZ. That's fantastic. That kind of flexibility. And I know you're kind of limited given the fact that you've got a bunch of players that are missing, at least for now, none related to health and safety protocols. But for now, you've got a bunch of players that are hurt for various reasons. Who knows when Jimmy returns to the team? I like that flexibility. I don't know how consistent you can be in going to KZ Okpala, though. Just thinking, it's okay to kind of bring him off the bench in spurts if you have the hot hand. If he looks like he's engaged as he did yesterday and he's not getting roasted out there defensively, you keep him in there. If he's, again, I think that engagement from Okpala is the telltale sign from him is that he needs to be in there.
I think you tie his minutes to PJ Tucker because PJ Tucker's out there literally coaching Okpala through every single one of his minutes. Hey, stay home here. Hey, go over there. Help there. All this stuff. Tie his minutes to PJ Tucker. That was a good sign too. This is survival mode for the Heat for the next 4 to 6 weeks while Bam is out. You just do whatever works. You're absolutely right. Eric Spoelstra is like, all right, I'm throwing KZ Okpala, Caleb Martin, and Max Strus. That's our closing trio with Lowry and whoever else it was, PJ Tucker out there to close the game. And that's fine. Duncan Robinson's not playing at the end of the game. Tyler Herro's not playing at the end of the game. It doesn't matter. Nobody on this roster, I think, is going to have a problem with that. I think everybody understands, hey, while Bam is out and while Jimmy is banged up, it's just surviving. Let's maintain this fourth place in the Eastern Conference standing that we have right now. This is Bill Belichick playing, just running 42 times and passing 3 times against Buffalo on Monday Night Football. Just do whatever you need to do to just get through this.
I will say from one more point from Kelly O'Burner here. He writes about the emphasis on putting up more threes. You tweeted something out about it last night from Spo's presser. Yeah. I don't think it's something they're likely to lean into every game. Like that was something because this Bucks defense is predicated upon giving up a ton of threes. They give up more than any other team, including Miami, who was the second most in the league. Chicago, who is Miami's next opponent on Saturday, a very good team at defending the three-point shot. They don't give up a ton of threes. I don't expect them to lean into it as much. I
disagree, actually, because if you're missing Jimmy and you're missing Bam, you don't really have your mid-range guys. And so to take advantage of that math problem, you're like, all right, like, look, you might not get, 47 threes or whatever it was against Milwaukee, but you can't be taking like 22 like it was the other night. You got to, maybe it's not that 50, 45, whatever we think the target was that Spoelstra set for his team, but maybe it's 36, maybe it's 40, I don't know, but
more than Chicago gives up on average. I mean,
I think just the emphasis overall being, hey, shoot more threes. Like we can't go in there just taking 23s a game. This isn't 1998.
Yeah, but I would expect that Tyler probably has a bigger game against Chicago because of that mid-range versatility, because he can create a shot off the dribble, because he's not as reliant on the three-point shot. Anyway, let's move into somebody who is reliant on the three-point shot. That's Duncan Robinson, of course. This question comes in from, I'm probably going to butcher this, Naarees, Nares, I suppose it could be pronounced that way. Could the veterans on the team be giving Duncan a little bit too much advice? Could they be causing this funk? And then a follow-up question about Duncan Robinson. Who are some players you would target in a Duncan Robinson trade? The trade talk, let's put that on hold for a little bit. What about the veterans? You think they're in his ear a little bit too much, talking to Duncan during this slump and maybe exacerbating it to some degree?
I don't even think I think the slump is a little overblown right now. I know he wasn't in at the end of that Milwaukee game, but he was shooting fine. I don't know if it's more defensively right now. He's not playing as well as you'd like. I don't know that the veterans are in his ear too much. I don't know if this is in regard to Kyle Lowry and PJ Tucker being very vocal. Let's just use the word vocal on the floor right now, screaming at their teammates, basically. Duncan Robinson doesn't care about that. He's a Miami Heat vet at this point. He's been around.
Yeah.
He gets it. I think he appreciates being coached, whether it's by the coaching staff or his teammates. That's not the problem. That's not the
Yeah.
problem. I don't know what the problem is, but his teammates talking to him isn't the problem.
And we kind of all have this kind of view of, well, not us necessarily, but some people, fandom in general, has this view about Jimmy Neutron, right? That he's just this guy who doesn't belong on the floor. He's white, he's a nerd, whatever. He doesn't look like your average NBA player. He gives as good as he gets. Yes, he'll be dressed down by whatever player, but it's not like he's above or below talking to somebody and calling them out as well. He knows what his role is. And I'm sure those veterans on the team, none of them are in his ear going, hey, you got to do this differently. No one's going to mess with Duncan's shot. They'd all love to be able to shoot like him. They would never do anything to take that away from him. And you saw in the postgame presser, PJ Tucker talking about what he does so well. Like, even when he's not making his shots, that gravity on the floor makes things so much easier for a guy like Tucker and everybody else on this roster to get their shots. Kyle has talked about it before. Jimmy makes jokes, but that's who Jimmy is. Everybody knows that it's tough love, but they respect it. They appreciate it. Bam. I mean, what are you going to say? Like, Bam's not out there, but I'm sure he's not out there criticizing Duncan in any way, shape, or form. Like,
right.
he makes Duncan just as much as Duncan makes Bam to some degree because of his ability to shoot so well. So I reject that to some degree. I don't think anybody's messing him up or trying to, give him advice that he wouldn't appreciate or welcome. But what about the trade question then? This one comes in from BK.
Yeah.
Who are some players you would target in a Duncan Robinson trade?
Should we do that after the break?
Sure, why not? Let's put
a
pin on that. Yeah, put a pin on that. We'll talk a little bit about some potential trade partners, Caleb Martin, and a little bit also, from your questions coming in here on our mailbag episode. But first, just a reminder that Built Bar is a great sponsor for the show. This holiday season, grab the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, or even better than a candy bar. Built Bar is filled with so much holiday goodness, rich with decadent flavor, covered in chocolate, but amazingly low in calories, sugar, net carbs, and fat. And yet it's high in protein. You get the both of best worlds. Best of both worlds. Yes, that's how it is. Delicious and healthy. So many flavors you'll have a hard time choosing. You can get a mixed box. That's my favorite. Getting a mixed box of all the different flavors that you want. Give some to some friends and family. Share the wealth, share the love this holiday season. We could use it. Built Bar gives you that extra fuel when you're busting down those mall doors and battling for all the holiday shoppers. Or if you're just standing in endless shopping lines, Built Bar can give you that extra something you need to keep going. That's absolutely the case. I know a lot of people try to go to malls this season, even with the pandemic and everything else like that. And, you think about trying to stop over for a bite to eat. Lines are too long. Forget about it. Grab a Built Bar. That keeps you going. It will fill you up for a couple hours until you do get that meal that you need. Because it's a season of peace and love, don't bring up that your favorite Built Bar at family parties, because people are so passionate about their favorite flavor, they might fight for it and things could get out of hand. So let's try to avoid that. You dip your Built Bar into a piping hot cup of cocoa. Maybe not a lot of cocoa being consumed in South Florida. I don't know. Wes, are you a hot cocoa guy?
I'm a hot cocoa guy. I'm an eggnog guy. All those holiday drinks. I'm a hot toddy guy. I love all of it.
Hot toddy. Wow, look at you. What are you? That sounds like something an 80-year-old woman drinks, a hot toddy. Anyway, like some of those marshmallow treats around the holidays, you need to get your hands on the Built Bar Puffs. They're light, fluffy, and marshmallowy through and through. Different flavors, all covered in chocolate. They taste so good, you won't believe that they're filled with protein. Go to Built.com. Use the promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your order. Only if you go to Built.com, enter the promo code LOCK15 for 15% off your next order. BetOnline has you covered all season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. As football season continues the march to the playoffs, BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the sports action this season. Head to our new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to receive that bonus. From basketball, football, to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. Just a reminder that you can always reach us via email at lockedonheat@gmail.com or using the Twitter hashtag AskLOHeat. Be sure to please subscribe to the show and leave a review, especially on YouTube. We want to hear from you, so make sure that you leave comments wherever available. We are always welcoming that kind of feedback. And you guys have been so excellent in sending in questions, comments about our show, being with us as we recapped yesterday's Milwaukee Bucks victory. It's been fun interacting with you throughout the season. But this next question comes in from Rodney Jean, or Jean perhaps. What the Heat freaking need is a solid rim protector that allows them to not to switch all the time, an athletic dribble penetrating player. That's it. Now, we kind of talked about that in regards to Myles Turner. Is there anything? Oh, wait, what am I talking about? We were going to answer the Duncan Robinson.
Well, let's just do the whole thing. I mean, Duncan Robinson, what do you trade him for? I mean, all this stuff is related, David, where
it does.
everybody, and yeah, you could trade Duncan, I guess from a salary perspective, we were talking about Duncan Robinson for Myles Turner, but that doesn't work like we were talking about at the top of the show. Look, I understand that Bam Adebayo isn't the biggest guy. He's not your traditional looking center. And there is a faction of fans, not just Heat fans, but NBA fans in general, who say, look, you need a 7-footer in the middle there. I disagree. I think that the way that Bam Adebayo plays, the way that the Heat play, I mean, the way that the Warriors played at the height of their dynasty with Draymond Green at center, you can only do that for 4 or 5 minute stretches once a half for Golden State. Right. What Bam Adebayo allows you to do is to just do that all game. And if you put the right players around Bam Adebayo, and then you can hit a type of level of basketball that I think is perfect for this modern game. And when I say put the right players around Bam Adebayo, that's not a knock on Bam. That's just because Bam is able to make all these guys better. I think the Heat, by the way, have a lot of those players. I think if you just get good shooting from around him, from these guys who you expect to be good shooters, whether it's Duncan Robinson or even Kyle Lowry, who hasn't been shooting awesome all year, Max Strus, who finally sort of broke out last night against Milwaukee. Yeah, I think you've got everything you need. Dwayne Dedmon coming off the bench, like that's a good option to have, right? That's your 7-footer, your good rebound. He's got a good rebounding rate, all that stuff. Omer Yurtseven has a solid rebounding rate. I think he can get better. Like you have these options that you go to off the bench. I don't know that you all of a sudden need some vaunted rim protector. Maybe you could use one more big man just to have, like, because when you have one injury, you're kind of shallow at that spot right now. KZ Okpala is playing out of position at the 5. I'm not against getting one more body in that front court, but I don't think you need to revamp this entire thing, whether you're trading Duncan Robinson, moving Bam to the 4. What the Heat have right now works. They just got to get healthy.
Yeah. And I think a big part of that, too, is the fact that your starting lineup is missing a lot of that shooting that makes Bam stand out so effectively. Like, to your point, if your two best shooters aren't knocking down 40% or 38% of their shots, all of a sudden you've got a problem from the 3-point line. And that's not Bam's fault. That's the strength of his game. And this always kind of feels to me, in listening to this question, it feels like the grass is always greener sort of comparison, because I remember the Whiteside era when we were first starting this podcast, and we would see him out there blocking 3 shots a game, empty shots per game. Yes, that was the defense. They were running guys off the 3-point line, funneling them towards Hassan, and still getting roasted and still winning barely 40 games a year. That's not necessarily the answer. For today's NBA, I think, to your point, with all the 3-point shooting from 1 through 5 around the league, minus in Miami apparently, but let's say in 1 through 5, so much 3-point shooting, you need switch-heavy defenses. That's something that Bam gives you. You have an elite perimeter defender, a big that can do so much. I mean, I don't think there's any.
The block on Jason Tatum in the conference finals 2 years ago, do we just forget about that? It's not like Bam can't protect the rim. I mean, he's a tremendous help side defender, and that's today's game. Give me that, a guy who can make that athletic of a play over just some. Look, it's not like Rudy Gobert is walking through that door. You know what I mean? Like it's not.
And why would you? Like Utah Utah has problems in the playoffs every year.
Yeah. Bam doesn't. Bam gets better in the playoffs. Give me that guy. Should we move on to our last 2 questions here, David?
Yeah, absolutely. This last one comes in from Jordan. He writes in, KZ or Caleb? Caleb Martin is everything we wanted KZ to be. Should Caleb get the free roster spot, or should we be moving KZ for Caleb to take his spot and fill the free spot at the deadline? Kind of unfair. You sent this question in 3 days ago, and of course, Martin winds up having his best game of his NBA career. KZ having a solid performance, but not 28 points solid. So I don't know. How do you want to answer this? I think it's pretty obvious that we would move forward with Caleb at this point.
Yeah, I think this is just a good launching off point to talk about Caleb's 2-way contract. I mean, he's now played 23 games. There's 50 games allotted under that 2-way. And I think, and I've said this before, this is a matter of when, not if, you promote Caleb Martin to the 15-man roster. He's more than earned it, and the Heat desperately need him. Even when they get healthy, I think his 2-way play, his versatility to play either forward spot, even play some 2-guard a little bit, like he's just a guy who could fill minutes on the wing. And so I think you're just going to promote him. The problem with that is that they have these luxury tax concerns. And I don't think that if the Heat can skirt getting into the luxury tax this season, if they could avoid it, they will. They absolutely will. And so when you look at what they have available under the tax, which is a little bit more than $400,000 under the luxury tax, and the prorated contract that they can offer Caleb Martin that would keep them under that, they have to basically get to March before they offer Caleb Martin the prorated minimum contract that would keep them under the luxury tax while also promoting Caleb Martin to that 15-man spot. The problem, that's fine. The problem with that is that's going to leave about 9 games where you can't play Caleb Martin. I did the math today. I wrote about it for the West Side in this morning's newsletter, wesgoldberg.substack.com. That's 9 games where you have no Caleb Martin. Now, that's not life or death, and you're not thinking about that in December right now, right? Because you have all these injuries. Just play Caleb Martin, figure it out, figure it out later. Just because he has to go to Sioux Falls for 9 games, he's still under contract. Nobody can poach him. It's fine. But that's something that we just should monitor going forward. But
theoretically, by that point, Victor Oladipo will be back, and that will kind of offset the absence of Martin.
Exactly. That's the hope. And Jimmy Butler will be back and 100% healthy too. So that's where you're at. As far as KZ Okpala goes, you just got this next 4 to 6 weeks. I've said it over and over again. This is everything for him. This is This is his career defining moment. He needs to develop. He needs to play like he did the second half against Milwaukee last night. He needs to continue to develop and take those steps in the right direction, because if not, he's going to be looking for a job, and I don't know that he gets one.
Yeah. Listen, you brought up a great point about tying his minutes with PJ, because that's been the knock, right? I think throughout the years that KZ's been on the roster, you and I have never said anything about his physical ability or his talent or anything like that. It's all there. Like he is a big that can stretch the floor. I mean, in theory, stretch the floor. He can bring the ball up. He's got a smooth, well, not a smooth stroke necessarily, but let's say he's an option, right, from the 3-point line. He's also mobile defensively and things of that sort, but it's just there always seems to be a problem where he's never quite sure what he's doing out there on the floor. And then you get a veteran like PJ who always knows what he's doing on the floor, and it kind of helps balance that out and brings out the best in KZ. I think we'll start to see more and more of Okpala minutes in the future, and I think there's a future where we don't wind up adding any other player to this roster, where you just get KZ and all of a sudden you have a 6'10" big who can do what he does, and you get another wing player in Martin, and you bring back Victor Oladipo, and all of a sudden that's your depth. It doesn't require another big name that's floating out there in free agency or somebody that's there in Sioux Falls. This is your lineup moving in, and it's a pretty damn good one. We saw yesterday, missing 2 All-Stars. They took the Milwaukee Bucks, who had been up to that point 11-0 whenever Drew Holiday, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Chris Middleton all play on the floor. Guess what? Now they're 11-1 thanks to Miami and their incredible depth. So anyway, great episode. Thanks so much for joining us, and thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Remember that every episode is always free and available wherever you get the show, so make sure you subscribe to get the best coverage available. Make sure to also check out Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. This is David Ramil signing off for now. Thanks for joining me, Wes.
Wrap it up, B.